Well, welcome to my sixth professor chat. Last time we talked about organizational dynamics being one dimension of your people strategy. I said the other, your leadership and that of your leadership team in this takeoff stage really becomes the catalyst for success. Leadership shapes all the key elements we discussed that leads to setting direction, aligning, motivating your people using Professor Cotter's language. But keep in mind what Jim Collins said in his best-selling book, Good to Great. You first need to get the right people in the right seats. Fundamentally, leaders have followers. Since you're in a position of authority, people may obey your instructions because they want to retain their job and so forth. That is commanding, not leadership. Forceful directing may be needed, but in general, it is not motivating. In one study, only 35% of the employees feel inspired by their boss. With leadership, people naturally follow because they like the culture, they are inspired by the vision, and the direction of your company. They want to be part of its success. And this comes from a we mentality. Leadership is a more than one concept. And I'm a fan of strength-based leadership that is an extension of this we mentality. Tom Roth and Barry Conchie found from their research on strength-based leadership that first, the most effective leaders are always investing in their strengths. And if you spend all your time on your weaknesses, then relative-wise, your strengths deteriorate. Secondly, they surround themselves with the right people, as Collins suggests. And they maximize their team, recognizing different people have different strengths. And as I advocated in our last chat, they understand their followers' needs. Now, there are tons of books on leadership. I have over 100 in my library with people adding different perspectives and points of view. And I've even written a book entitled Become a Great Leader, Develop a Leadership Plan. Unfortunately, it can all get rather muddled. And that is why I developed my 7 P's of leadership framework, which is broad and encompassing. And as mentioned last time, the first 3 P's of people, planning, and performance are in your outer world, the day-to-day reality of living and working in your company. These 3 P's are essential for energizing your organization to fulfill your vision and your mission and the strategies to get you there. But what do you do to become that catalyst? What is the profile of your inner self? My contention as a coach is the better you understand yourself, the stronger the leader you become. So let's look at my 4 inner P's of purpose, persuasions, personality, and proficiencies. I find that many people do not think through their personal purpose. It's amazing how profound this understanding and this undertaking can be for the individual. Setting out your domain, vision, and mission represents the purpose of the company. Why not energize yourself by thinking through your personal purpose in a similar fashion? You recall we started with domain. In this case, where is it that you want to spend your time and effort? Using a strength-based leadership mentality, what do you want to develop? I divide the overall purpose framework into 3 categories: career development, personal development, and social development. Each category has a list of areas that one could pursue. So within a category, when we're doing this assessment, we simply rank what is most important to you. And we do that for each of the 3 categories. And then we rank the 3 categories against each other, with the top ones at the list as trying to define what is your priority across the categories. Normally you focus on the top 5 or so you keep going through this list until you have identified your most significant priorities. Now, in this prioritization process, it leads to a lot of discussion on what you want to become in the future. A picture emerges on your vision for yourself sometime out in that future. Then you work that into a personal purpose statement. As you're thinking about the future, things like legacy and big goals emerge, which becomes your mission. And then you incorporate that into your personal purpose statement. Now, as you progress through your life, you will find times when you want to revise this personal purpose. The same is true for your company. Now, there are natural progressions. When I got out of college, my personal purpose had a lot of focus on career, as I wanted to become a high-level executive in a large company. Today, I have a lot of passion around developing my grandchildren and helping develop leaders of small businesses take off like yourself. I have switched from career being dominant to social in this phase of my life. Now, you may want to read my blog that's entitled, "What is Your Personal Purpose?" I think you will find it helpful. Now, turning to the next quadrant, persuasions. Persuasions are deep-rooted beliefs, feelings, needs, perceptions, values, and morals that influence how you behave and act in this outer world. They persuade you in acting a certain way and create a filter or bias in dealing with the outer world, bringing judgment in how to behave. Thus, in this quadrant of persuasions, you need to articulate your core values. I find often people have not really thought through their values. What, for example, are your top 3 values that guide your behavior? Secondly, what are your key beliefs about people? Do you tend to trust people? And so forth. Third, you will also be influenced by your personal needs. What's the driving influences on your behavior and that of others? The personal purpose work may help you identify some of your top needs. Then I like to get people to tell me how they think the world works. It's an open focus question, but it gives you a picture of how they approach life and their interactions with others. This thinking leads to what I believe is very important in leading: guiding principles. Develop 2, maybe 3 guiding principles on how you deal with people. Tell your people what these are, which will help them better understand you and your expectations. Now, to wrap up persuasions, it is important to have a character statement. Many leadership authors believe that character is the centerpiece of your leadership. I noted before how important trust was last time. If people don't trust you, then they will become demotivated, and it's hard to get them back to follow you. The character statement can be something like, I'm a trustworthy person, that people can count on my doing what I say. Whatever you feel comfortable with, putting it down on paper puts a stake in the ground on your behavior. And take a read of my blog, Character, a Learned Behavior. Now shifting to another quadrant, what is your personality? All different types of personalities can be good leaders. And there's lots of personality tests to get your assessment. Are you an extrovert? Are you open to new experiences? Are you dominant? And so forth. I'm sure you have taken some of these tests, like the Myers-Briggs or the Berkman. There's a Big Five personality, Hogan, and so forth. Personalities tend not to change too much over time. The reason I include personalities as a category is it heavily influences your interactions with your people. It's good to understand yourself and how you can impact others. Moreover, you may find you have a fatal flaw, something you do that really turns people off. You will need to correct that to become a good leader. Personality also influences your leadership style. Are you an authoritarian? Do you get people to participate? Do you see yourself as serving your people? There's a wealth of information on leadership styles, which we really don't have enough time to go into more depth. But as an example, participative leaders tend to get higher performance than authoritarian leaders. And my blog on reflections of servant leadership may be helpful for you on your style. Finally, let's consider the fourth quadrant of proficiencies. Here's where you can spend some time improving yourself and building on your strengths. First, you do have some traits. And in the early days of leadership teaching, traits were dominant, particularly with the great man theory. Traits do play a role, but by no means the whole story. As you would imagine, there are different advocacies on which traits are most important. For today, I will simply give you the framework from Northhouse's leadership text. Here's what he says, follows. Number 1, intelligence. 2, self-confidence. 3, determination. 4, integrity. And 5, sociability. Now, there's not much you can do on intelligence. Yeah, but in your self-confidence, that can grow as you have a greater understanding of yourself. And you have worked with your team thinking through the company's strategic game plan. Now, personal purpose also helps determination. Integrity is a function of character. And by working through your values, guiding principles, and character statement, your integrity will grow. In my opinion, sociability involves getting out and talking with your people. You can do that. A corollary is emotional intelligence, which some consider the most significant factor in assessing one's leadership. There's a whole lot of material on emotional intelligence. At a high level, it deals with social skills, your ability to self-regulate, your empathy, how self-aware are you, and self-motivation. It's worth taking an emotional IQ test, and you can find them online. Unlike IQ, you can develop and improve your emotional intelligence. The second component of proficiencies is your business knowledge. After all, you're running a business. Just look at a business school's disciplines. Management, marketing, finance, accounting, operations, IT. You will need a certain level of knowledge in each. So far, we have spent time on management, marketing, and operations. Well, you don't need to be an expert. You can hire people with those strengths. as it is important for you to have forward plans. Another proficiency is your understanding of the industry for your chosen domain. Obviously, the more you know, the better. And with some focus, you can grow this capability. Diving deeper into an understanding of your competition, as we discussed, will build your knowledge base. Sometimes your technical expertise can be important. If you run an engineering company, it is helpful to have an engineering degree. However, I have a client who is the CEO of an engineering company with a finance degree. But his strengths are leadership and strategy that complement his leadership team, who are quite technical. Obviously, your leadership strengths need to be built upon. And one way to assess your strengths is to take the test provided by Roth and Conchi in their strength-based leadership book. Through research, they identified 4 major strength areas: executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. Those make a lot of sense to me. Now, they identified specific strengths under each area, in total amounting to some 40 different strengths. And if you've not taken the assessment, I think it is highly worthwhile for you and your leadership team. Given all this, my recommendation is to synergize your proficiencies into a leadership brand statement. If you pursue thinking through this leadership personal profile, I am confident you will have a better grasp of your leadership and how to grow it. My blog on your leadership personal profile will help take you specifically through each of these quadrants. It's a lot like comprehensive material, but by doing each quadrant separately at a time, it is quite manageable. And with leadership being your key catalyst, it is worth your time and effort. Well, that's it for today. And hopefully I'll see you next time when we begin to discuss the role of planning and in the midterm particularly. Take care.